The relationship between the United States and South Korea has been defined by a complex interplay of cooperation and tension since the end of the Korean War. This bond, forged in the fires of conflict, has evolved over the decades, adapting to the changing geopolitical landscape and the shifting priorities of both nations. Forged in the crucible of conflict, the alliance served as a bulwark against communist expansion during the Cold War. The U.S. provided military and economic support to South Korea, helping to rebuild its war-torn economy and establish a stable government. This period saw numerous joint military exercises and a strong U.S. presence in the region, aimed at deterring North Korean aggression and maintaining regional stability. However, the legacy of that conflict, particularly the unresolved division of the Korean Peninsula, continues to cast a long shadow over the region. The Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, stands as a stark reminder of the ongoing tensions and the fragile peace that exists between the North and the South. The division has not only separated families, but also created a constant state of alert and readiness for potential conflict. The U.S. commitment to South Korea's defense has been unwavering, with thousands of American troops stationed there as a deterrent against North Korean aggression. These troops participate in regular joint military drills with South Korean forces, showcasing the strength and readiness of the alliance. This military presence is a key component of the U.S. strategy to maintain peace and stability in the region. This military presence, while welcomed by successive South Korean governments, has also been a source of controversy, with some segments of the population viewing it as an infringement on national sovereignty. Protests and political debates often arise, reflecting the complex feelings of the South Korean people towards the U.S. military presence. While some see it as a necessary protection, others view it as a reminder of foreign influence and control. Despite decades of economic and political development, South Korea remains acutely aware of its precarious geopolitical position. The nation has transformed into a global economic powerhouse, yet the threat from the North and the strategic interests of neighboring countries continue to shape its foreign policy and defense strategies. South Korea's military readiness and technological advancements are a testament to its commitment to safeguarding its sovereignty. Sandwiched between powerful neighbors, including a nuclear-armed North Korea and an increasingly assertive China, South Korea must constantly navigate a complex web of regional rivalries and security concerns. The nation's strategic location makes it a focal point in the broader geopolitical struggles of East Asia, requiring careful diplomacy and strong alliances to maintain its security and independence. This delicate balancing act has been further complicated by the unpredictable nature of U.S. foreign policy in recent years. Changes in administration and shifting priorities have led to uncertainties and challenges in maintaining a consistent and reliable alliance. South Korea has had to adapt to these changes, seeking to ensure that its interests are protected while maintaining a strong partnership with the U.S. The Trump administration's America First approach and its willingness to engage in unilateral action have left many U.S. allies, including South Korea, feeling uncertain about the future of the alliance. The fluctuating nature of U.S. commitments has prompted South Korea to explore new strategies and partnerships, aiming to secure its position in an increasingly complex and unpredictable global landscape. The current geopolitical climate is marked by a resurgence of great power competition, with the U.S. and its allies facing off against an increasingly assertive Russia and a rising China. This dynamic has created a complex and often tense international environment, where strategic decisions and alliances are more critical than ever. In this high-stakes game of global chess, South Korea finds itself situated on a particularly sensitive square. The Korean Peninsula has long been a flashpoint in global politics, and its significance has only grown in recent years. The Biden administration has identified Russia and China as the two most significant challenges to U.S. global leadership. This has led to a renewed focus on strengthening alliances and partnerships in key regions around the world. To counter their growing influence, the U.S. has adopted a strategy of containment, seeking to limit their economic and military expansion while strengthening alliances with countries in their respective regions. This strategy involves a combination of military presence, economic sanctions, and diplomatic efforts. South Korea, with its strategic location on the Korean peninsula and its close economic ties to China, has become a focal point of this strategy. The country's economic prosperity and military capabilities make it a valuable ally for the U.S. in its efforts to maintain regional stability. The U.S. has sought to enlist South Korea's support in its efforts to counter both Russia and China, but this has put Seoul in a difficult position. Balancing its alliance with the U.S. and its economic relationship with China requires careful diplomacy and strategic foresight. On the one hand, South Korea recognizes the importance of its alliance with the U.S. and shares many of its concerns about Russia's and China's behavior. The historical and military ties between the U.S. and South Korea are strong, and both nations benefit from this partnership. On the other hand, Seoul is wary of antagonizing either power, fearing economic retaliation or military escalation. The economic interdependence between South Korea and China is significant, with China being South Korea's largest trading partner. Additionally, the proximity of North Korea, a close ally of China, adds another layer of complexity to South Korea's strategic calculations. Balancing these competing interests is a delicate and ongoing challenge for South Korean policymakers. Against this backdrop of geopolitical tensions, the South Korean government made the controversial decision to implement martial law. Citing unspecified threats to national security, the government deployed troops on the streets and imposed restrictions on public gatherings and freedom of movement. This sudden crackdown sent shockwaves through South Korean society. Many citizens were caught off guard by the severity of the measures, which seemed disproportionate to the perceived threat level. Rumors and speculation swirled, fueling a climate of fear and uncertainty. Opposition politicians and human rights groups condemned the move as an overreach of government authority and a violation of civil liberties. They accused the government of using the pretext of national security to stifle dissent and consolidate power. The government defended its actions, arguing that they were necessary to maintain order and stability in a time of heightened international tension. However, many observers questioned the true motives behind the crackdown, suspecting that it was part of a larger geopolitical calculation. The imposition of martial law in South Korea was met with a mixture of concern and suspicion by the international community. The sudden and drastic measure raised eyebrows and questions about the underlying motivations and potential consequences. While some countries expressed understanding for South Korea's security concerns, others questioned the proportionality of the response and urged restraint. The international community was divided, with some nations calling for immediate dialogue and others warning of the dangers of escalating tensions. The U.S., however, remained conspicuously silent on the issue, issuing only a brief statement expressing support for South Korea's right to defend itself. This lack of a strong stance from Washington left many wondering about the true nature of the U.S.'s involvement and intentions. This muted response fueled speculation that the U.S. had given its tacit approval to the crackdown, or perhaps even orchestrated it behind the scenes. Political analysts debated the possible strategic benefits for the U.S., considering the complex web of alliances and rivalries in the region. According to some analysts, the U.S. may have seen the martial law declaration as a way to achieve multiple geopolitical objectives simultaneously. By supporting South Korea's hardline stance, the U.S. could potentially strengthen its influence in the region and send a clear message to its adversaries. By heightening tensions on the Korean peninsula, the U.S. could divert Russia's attention. The strategic importance of the Korean peninsula cannot be overstated, and any significant developments there are bound to have ripple effects across the globe. With Russia bogged down in its ongoing conflict with Ukraine, the U.S. may have calculated that a crisis on the Korean peninsula would force Moscow to divert resources and attention away from Eastern Europe. This would not only alleviate some pressure on Ukraine but also complicate Russia's strategic calculations. Pressure, North Korea. The increased military presence in South Korea could be seen as a warning to North Korea, which has ramped up its missile tests and bellicose rhetoric in recent months. The show of force was intended to deter any aggressive moves from Pyongyang and reassure allies in the region of the U.S.'s commitment to their security, strengthen its grip on South Korea. The close military cooperation between the U.S. and South Korea was a clear signal of the deepening ties and mutual reliance between the two nations. The martial law declaration could give the U.S. greater leverage over South Korea, which may feel more reliant on American military support in a time of crisis. This increased dependency could translate into more influence for the US in shaping South Korea's domestic and foreign policies. If this was indeed the US's game plan, it was a high-stakes gamble that relied on a number of assumptions, not all of which proved to be accurate. The unfolding events would test the resilience and adaptability of US foreign policy, as well as the strength of its alliances in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The stakes were high, and the outcomes uncertain, making this a critical moment in international relations. So, here's where things start to get interesting. The plan, which seemed foolproof at first, begins to show its cracks. Unexpected challenges arise, and the team finds themselves in uncharted territory. Every move is critical now, and the stakes have never been higher. What was once a well-oiled machine is now facing the ultimate test. Will they adapt, or will the plan fall apart completely? Only time will tell. The recent developments have sparked significant backlash in South Korea. Citizens are taking to the streets, voicing their concerns and frustrations. Many feel that their government has not adequately protected their interests. This growing unrest is a clear indication of the deep-seated anxieties within the population. The long-standing relationship between the United States and South Korea is now facing unprecedented scrutiny. Questions are being raised about the future of this alliance. Can the two nations continue to work together effectively, or are they on the brink of a significant shift? The answers to these questions will shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. Looking ahead, the future of the Korean Peninsula remains uncertain. Will there be a path to peaceful reunification, or will tensions continue to escalate? The decisions made in the coming months will be crucial. The world is watching closely, hoping for a resolution that ensures stability and peace in the region. Misguided strategies can have far-reaching consequences. It's crucial for leaders to carefully consider their actions and the potential ramifications. History has shown us that hasty decisions can lead to unintended and often disastrous outcomes. As we move forward, it's more important than ever to learn from